Good evening. Welcome to the November 7th Board of Education meeting for Fairfield City School District. Call to order. The appointment of a treasurer pro tem, Jerry Lynn Gundrum. Do I have a motion to accept that recommendation?
So moved.
Mr. Clark,
Second.
Mr. Napier, Mrs. Gundrum, would you call that vote?
Mr. Clark,
Yes.
Mr. Napier,
Yes.
Mr. Bagley,
Yes.
and I will abstain since it involves myself.
And you are still elected as the pro tem treasurer. Okay, then next order of business. Roll call. Mrs. Gundrum.
Mr. Bagley,
Here.
Ms. Birding Miller, Mr. Clark,
Present.
Mr. Napier,
Here.
I am here.
Pledge of Allegiance, please stand with me. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We will jump right into presentations.
Yes, Mr. Bagley and members of the board, we have one presentation scheduled this evening, and that is our annual state report card presentation. At this time, I will turn it over to Mrs. Aug.
Thank you, Mr. Smith, Mr. Bagley, members of the board. I'm here tonight with Mr. Jeffers to share our state report card results with you. We have a lot of information in this presentation, and I know there are a lot of slides, so do not be scared. We are going to hit the highlights tonight, and then, of course, we're always happy to go back and spend time in places where you might have questions later on. So, as we know, the report card is intended to give us information to understand our areas of strength and weakness. Along with the report card, many districts also publish a quality profile, which acts as a complement to the report card to capture the great things that are going on in our buildings and in our district each and every day. So the report card measures achievement, progress, early literacy, gap closing, and graduation, and all of these components go into the district's overall rating. That last one on the slide here, we are still waiting for. It should be calculated in this upcoming, this year's state report card. So we should be talking about that next year. It'll be a new element, new and exciting for us. We're now in year 3 of this new rating system, which uses a STAR system. So this is just a quick reminder of what the stars mean for each component. And each of the components here listed in the chart, they are rated on a 1 to 5 scale. But buildings and the district in their overall ratings can earn a half a star, but that's only in the overall rating. So, as you know, we earned a 4-star rating, which means we are exceeding state expectations, and we are just so proud and so excited to be, celebrating that this year. We did go up. We were 3.5 stars last year, so we're now at 4 stars, which means we're solidly in that exceeding state expectations. I do want to highlight also on this slide, there are 129 districts out of 607 that earned 4 stars, and then a total of 298 districts that earned 4 stars or better. So that's just to highlight that we are in that upper tier, that upper 50%, which I think is exciting. Then here's a quick breakdown of the ratings by buildings. The green highlights in this presentation are meant to show improvement from last year to this year. And just a few shout outs. I won't read all of these to you, but I do want to highlight that all of Fairfield City Schools, at minimum, met state expectations. So all of our buildings met or exceeded state expectations. And Central, Compass, North, South, Freshman School, and Fairfield High School all had exceed state expectation ratings. The district also maintained 5 stars in gap closing. And gap closing is that measures reduction in educational gaps for all student subgroups. It's really tough to maintain a 5-star rating, and we have done that for a few years now, so I think that's something to really celebrate. So just now we'll move into some comparisons. I included the GMC schools here and also Butler County schools for you to review. But as you know from previous years, the most relevant comparison for us is with similar districts. And ODE provides us this list every year because it does change a little bit every year. And we will use the similar districts as our point of comparison as we move through the components. So now let's start digging into the components, starting with achievement. And this is how well students performed on state tests. It also includes the performance index, and the performance index is like how well they did on those state tests. So the students who score proficient or more better than proficient earn us more points. We get fewer points for students who score below proficient, but one of the things that's good for us is we're kind of trending slightly upward, so that's definitely a trend in the right direction. And then here's how our similar districts performed on this component. So Fairfield is shown there with the red bar, and then our similar districts with the arrows. So what I did is Huber Heights has the number 1 behind it, and Huber Heights is most similar to us, and then Willoughby Eastlake is second most similar to us, and so on. So that's what the numbers behind those schools mean. So now we're going to move from achievement to growth. The progress component measures growth of our students as they compare to their previous performance. And this is an area where we improved this year. We went from 3 stars last year to 4 stars this year. And here's a quick overview of our progress. So let me just tell you real quick what the colors mean. So yellow is evidence that students made less than expected growth. Green is evidence that students made expected growth. And light blue means that there's significant evidence that students made more than expected growth. So we are very pleased with our growth in ELA this year at all the grade levels here. We've had ELA adoptions at all of these levels over the past 3 years, and we have really done some significant work on standards alignment, assessments, instruction, and fidelity to the core curriculum and interventions. And I think that work is paying off in these results here. Unfortunately, math did not look as good. This is definitely an area that we're focused on for improvement. We are going through a K-5 math adoption this year, and 6 through 8 will follow next year, and we've already started to work on that. And in both of these arenas, it will give us an opportunity to do that standards alignment, assessment alignment, and all of those things that we did with ELA. And so we would anticipate that all of that work helps us to improve in these areas. And then finally, here are our scores for science and social studies. And you can see that we did well. We met or exceeded expectation in those areas as well. And then one last component for me before I turn it over, the early literacy component, which measures the 3 things listed there. And then here's our similar district comparison. And when you look at this, I think we can be very proud of where we are. So Plain Local and Fairfield City Schools, they earned 3 stars. I tried to use a box there to show where the schools with 3 stars were. So only 4 schools actually had 4 stars. We were in the 3-star range. And then our most similar districts, so that Huber Heights, Willoughby Eastlake, they were all in the 2-star range. So Fairfield City Schools, we were really kind of in the middle with the majority of districts. Most districts in the state of Ohio, 42.6%, fell into that 3-star category for early literacy. So we're proud with that performance. So with that, I will turn it over to Mr. Jeffers.
Thank you, Mrs. Ogg. Good evening. As Mrs. Ogg mentioned earlier, gap closing is the component that measures the reduction of the educational gaps for student groups based on goals that are set by the Ohio's Every Student Succeeds Act. And they increase every year, so it's a moving target for us. As you can see from the graphic here, Fairfield ranged from 3 to 5 stars in the area of gap closing in each of our buildings, and all of these combined for a result in a 5-star rating as a district. The annual performance goals are established in 6 areas, and the performance of specific student subgroups is measured against these goals for each area. Goals are established in English language arts, and just a side note, the red dot is the goal, the red line is the goal. So anything beyond the red dot or red line is exceeding the goal. You can see here how we fared in each of the student groups in English language arts. And here is math, achievement, and growth. And then we have graduation by student group. And then how our ELs did versus the goal that was set, exceeding in all of those. Chronic absenteeism. The state chronic absenteeism was 25.6, so we did quite well with 20.1 there. And then the gifted component, where we got 3 stars for that. When compared to similar districts, the 20 similar districts, we were number 4. And then you can see here where the closest 5 fell in that comparison of gap closing. For graduation, the graduation component of the state report card, we earned 4 stars. This component is based on a 4-year graduate rating and a 5-year graduate rating combined for a weighted graduation rate. Ours was 94.5, which places us in the 4-star category for graduation. These 2 graphs show a representation of the trends. Fairfield's line is blue. The similar district average line is black, and the state line is red. You can see here that Fairfield was 9th when compared to the other 20 similar districts. We have thrown a lot of information at you in just a few minutes. So please feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions and need any clarification or want to dig into these a little bit deeper. But outside of that, I think we are.
I do have one question. Could you clarify, just for everybody in the community watching as well, the difference between the 4-year graduation and the 5-year graduation rate, please?
Yeah, so 4-year graduation rate is the number of students in the cohort that started the same year and were here for 4 years. And the 5-year is students who took an extra year to graduate. So the 4-year is a number, and the 5-year is usually a little bit better because a few more of the students graduate.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
So there's 2 different cohorts that the state measures for the graduation. And then one is worth, I think on this previous slide, one is worth 60% and one is worth 40%, and you put them together to get the weighted average of 94.5. So there are 2 different groups of students. The 4-year is, say, the class of, let's see, for this report card, the 4-year would be the class of 2023, and the 5-year would be the class of 2022.
Gotcha. Okay. Yep. Thank you.
Yep.
And Mr. Jeffers, the state 4-year graduation rate is 87.9%.
Where are you seeing that?
The next line, yeah. That just seems
Oh, the state.
shockingly
Yes.
low to me.
Yes, the state. I was like, Fairfield is not.
Yeah, no, Fairfield's
Yeah, we're 90.
Got me nervous.
over 95, 96%. That's great.
Yeah.
And then the state average chronic absenteeism is 1 in 4 students?
25.6.
Wow.
Per the definition, all of these things have.
Yeah, they have, right.
Yeah, yes.
And then when we look at your math numbers, English language, ELA, the science, the social studies, what stood out were the math deficiencies. Now, is that common across a lot of different districts? And does that coincide with some of the challenges of COVID and recovering from that?
Yeah, so it's definitely a national trend. So we seem to be recovering in reading and language arts at a faster rate than we are in math. And so it's certainly not, like, we're not on an island. We talk about this at Instructional Council and those are like curriculum leadership meetings in the region because so many districts are seeing this and trying to figure out, like, how do we, what was it? And we're even counting back, like, okay, where were they during COVID? Which standards might they have missed during COVID? Are we seeing that their gaps are, back here in 3rd grade, even though now they're 7th or 8th graders? So it's kind of an interesting puzzle in that. But I really do think the work that we're doing right now in preparation for our adoption for K-5 and 6-8 the following year are critical to improving these numbers and these outcomes, because it will be kind of a realignment of standards and assessments and really having very deep conversations about what our students need and where those deficits lie and what we can do to address them.
Well, that's great. It sounds like you're moving in the right direction, and I totally agree. I think math is very foundational, and so looking back to where were they when, what might have they missed, that's a great way to do it.
And to add to that, we've talked about this about a year ago, and to know that you were on it then and progressing now going forward and have a plan, that's very good to hear.
We, so, let me see if I can find this. So, we've already done a 9 through 12 adoption. And you don't really see that in our algebra numbers, but look at our geometry. So, like, geometry has improved since we've done that work, but algebra is still something we need to work on. So we're hopeful that this work will pay dividends for us.
And I was well pleased with the early literacy numbers, right? I think those are excellent, again, especially without full-day kindergarten, which I know is a dream of Mr. Smith's and all of us up here. So that means that's some serious hard work starting in kindergarten and moving forward to get us here.
And our principals and Georgine work so hard on monitoring all of those measures that go into early literacy and making sure that the right supports are in place, to keep kids, moving through and achieving, to pass that 3rd grade reading test. So, and whatever they need beyond if they don't. So.
Right.
Yeah. I just want to add thank you for the presentation, Mr. Smith, for your leadership and all the admin, but specifically to the principals and the teachers, the subs, the liaisons, everybody that's involved, day-to-day, one-to-one with the students. That's everybody does their part, but they have the hard work and they put it in to provide these results. And it's not an easy job, but it's a passion that our school district has. And when you implement these kind of things, especially with advancing with some math tools to better those scores, is very important and it's noticeable. So good job to you and to everyone. Thank you.
Well put. Anything else?
To piggyback off what Mr. Clark said, I appreciate that you put all these slides together and present it in a way that's understandable if you're not used to looking at all this data on ODE's website. I do have a question, because I know I've asked this before about the chronic absenteeism, and this is only if you know off the top of your head. We had talked in years past when this came up about, COVID and the quarantines and things like that. contributing to our chronic absenteeism. And I'm just wondering if it's starting to maybe trend down at all. It is, okay.
It is, and we're seeing it, we monitor it at the building level, actually, through our district leadership team. And we have some buildings, and not to get too deep into it, but so the state sets a different number every year because ultimately by like 2030 something, they want it to be at less than 5% chronic absenteeism. So there's a reduction each year to get us to that level. And we have several buildings already that are meeting that indicator by being below the state expectation. They're meeting the state expectation, which I think is very impressive. There's another way that you can meet it by reducing your overall absenteeism by 3%. And some of our buildings are still in that category, especially our secondary buildings. But we are seeing improvement. It has trended down, and every single building in the district also met its chronic absenteeism goal. So district met it, and so did every building. But it's something we talk about at a district leadership team. We spent time in our first meeting just talking about different ways, like how do we impress upon parents how important it is to get kids to school. And we talked about it at PTC because it's hours now, it's not days. And so even those doctor's appointments and dentist appointments and stuff can count in the overall calculation. So.
Okay. I mean, there's a lot to celebrate with these scores, and I don't want to take away from that, but I also appreciate that you all are not just like, oh, okay, good, we've passed this mark and we can relax a little now. I appreciate that you keep moving forward and keep pushing to do better, and I think that's great. So I really appreciate that from everyone.
4.5 next year.
Yeah. Well, and I'll just follow Jerry. I mean, we got 10 schools and 7 of those 10 are 4 and above. That's pretty incredible. 4.5. You said it. Great job.
What are the similar districts based on?
So just size.
Because I know they're nowhere close to
Demographics.
us.
Yeah, they are all across the state.
Right.
So they have to kind of similar size, similar family incomes, the wealth of the district, the money. I mean, there are several things that go into that methodology. And that's why they change a little bit every year, because things are kind of shifting with all of us.
Good, thank you.
Done. Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Begley, if you don't mind, I'd just like to say a few things. I know I don't often comment on presentations. Leave that to the board, but just listening to that presentation and listening to the comments by the board members just makes me so proud and excited. I mean, we've been proud and excited since these results have come out, and these results, if anyone has been paying attention, you would have seen a steady improvement over time over the last several years. And again, if anyone's been around, then they've heard these conversations that we have with our leadership teams, constantly, and it really was reinforced coming out of COVID, that it's just interesting. I'll try to keep it brief, but there are a lot of things that are not by coincidence. I often also talk about veteran leadership that we have in our buildings and across the district. That this all comes together to create this, because people don't have to constantly deal with change and new leadership coming in. And I'm not just talking about up here. I'm talking about in our buildings, especially our building principals. So when you have constants there, you don't have constant change, and you have that veteran leadership, management of a building, which we have 10,000 students. There's a lot to manage. Transportation, lunches, all the things, scheduling. But they have been focused on teaching and learning, especially post-COVID. We've certainly been managing our buildings, but there was a renewed focus on teaching and learning coming out of COVID because we knew our kids needed it. And we continue to see the benefits of that. And I often use the term stretch, you know, not push or pressure, but let's just continue to stretch ourselves as much as we can for our kids. And you can see that in these results. And I love, and I know it was a quick presentation. I know Mr. Napier asked about similar districts. You know, I would encourage people who are interested in that to look that up. But even those few graphs that we had this evening, when you look at how we compare to similar districts across the state, we fared so well. And again, that is a testament to all of our staff members, and especially our teachers who work with our kids each and every day in the classroom. So just don't take it for granted. That's what we keep saying. Celebrate it, celebrate it, celebrate it, and then just keep stretching. And just super excited, super proud of everyone across the district for their contributions to make this happen. It's not a coincidence. And so just want to share those thoughts tonight. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.